This is Saul Canelo Alvarez.
What's up, Danger?
This is Terence "Bud" Crawford.
What's up, Danger?
They are the two best boxers in the world. Growing up, fighting became their life's work to turn dreams into destiny.
What's up, Danger?
All hail King Canelo! One of the all-time greats. But Terence Crawford is one of the best on planet Earth.
How many fighters have ever been called the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? These are two of them, and they're gonna fight.
When two of the greats both claim to be the greatest, there's only one way to find out.
What's up, Danger?
On September 13th, the moment arrives.
Can't stop me now!
Canelo versus Crawford, a true super fight that only comes along once in a lifetime.
What's up, Danger?
Hello, fight fans! Las Vegas lives for high stakes, and this is as big as it gets. Super fights come around once a decade, maybe, and for the first time ever, a super fight lands in a Las Vegas stadium. The energy is building as fans pack the T-Mobile Arena a day before two legends step into the ring. One once ruled all the way down at lightweight. The other rules right now at super middleweight. Tomorrow, their worlds collide. It's an international crowd, and it's a Las Vegas tradition as Canelo Alvarez fights once again on Mexican Independence Day weekend, a holiday in which he's gone 9-1-1 in his career, but there has never been more at stake for the super middleweight champion, Canelo Alvarez. In his defeats, youth and size gave him cover. Tomorrow, he's the younger, bigger man with no excuses left. Then, challenger Terence Crawford is looking for the kind of glory only risk can buy. Stepping up with no safety nets on old school terms. No catch weights, no max weights, but all of the smoke. Only in Las Vegas could a weigh-in feel like a main event, as tonight, boxing's biggest gamble steps onto the scale. This is the Canelo versus Crawford weigh-in show. Welcome inside the T-Mobile Arena in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas. I'm Mario Lopez alongside boxing five-time champion Antonio Tarver, award-winning biographer and analyst Mark Kriegel, and Ring Magazine senior insider Mike Coppinger. Jim Gray and Heidi Andrell will join us shortly. Antonio, what a fight
Yes.
we are in store for tomorrow night, my man.
Yes, and what better way to celebrate Mexican Independence Day by featuring the iconic superstar Mexican world champion boxer Canelo Alvarez as he faced his toughest opponent to date, I believe, in two-fisted monster, the ferocious Terence "Bud" Crawford. What a way to start this weekend.
You know, boxing history favors the younger man, the naturally bigger man, the A-side. Terence Crawford is none of those things, but the real reason we're here is because he wouldn't settle for anyone else but Canelo Alvarez. What I want to know, what I think we want to know, is what does he know about Canelo that we don't, Mike?
Well, you know what they say, right, Mark? Be careful what you wish for. Canelo Alvarez might not just be bigger, but he might be better too. Crawford's jumping way up in class. He's jumping up in weight, size, and he's on the big stage for the first time, and we're going to see if he can pull this off.
You're exactly right, Mike. We're going to see that tomorrow night. And from Riyadh to New York to Las Vegas, 3 face-offs across the globe earlier this summer kicked everything off. And now, the final stare down before fight night is just moments away. Antonio, these two have been at press conferences around the world, but what changes as we approach the last stare down before they actually lace up the gloves tomorrow night?
Well, you know, I'm expecting both of these guys, both of their camps are invested in this fight very heavily, and you can tell the state of Bud Crawford's mind. He's focused, and Canelo Alvarez knows he has a vicious opponent in him tomorrow night. I think both of these fighters' greatness can elevate them to victory tomorrow.
And look, right, these are two all-time greats we're talking about here, and Terence Crawford's greatness is the only reason we're even here talking about this fight. Canelo Alvarez has fought 9 fights at 168, 2 at 75. He's put guys to sleep at 175, and if Crawford can take his best shot, he has a chance to win this fight.
Absolutely, and listen, we have 10 bouts ready to hit the scales in just moments, starting with our 6 YouTube prelims. Then it is the 4 main card fights. It is all going down tomorrow night at Allegiant Stadium at 9 Eastern and only on Netflix. Lightweights, Muhammad Alakal versus Travis Crawford. WBC Super Middleweight Interim World Championship, Christian Mabili versus Lester Martinez. Super Welterweight, Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. And of course, undisputed in Ring Magazine Super Middleweight Championship between Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford. Antonio, what skills in particular make Canelo so great?
Well, I think his skills jumps off the page. You know, his IQ for boxing is second to none, and his power is still his calling card. You know, this guy, if he hits you solid, you're out of there. And I believe it's his granite chin that has saved him in a lot of fights. If you can't hurt this man, there's no way you're going to be able to knock him out. So he has one-punch stopping power, like we just saw him knock out or knock down Berlanga. So Canelo is still one of the most complete fighters in the game today.
Remember the second Triple G fight. I think people forget just how masterfully Canelo can box when he wants to. Second thing is a chin. How many Hall of Famers has this guy been in with? No one's taken him out. No one's put him down. The last thing, and it always sticks with you, is the power. I mean, if you go back to the Billy Joe Saunders fight, the way that he took out a guy who had never been taken out before with one shot, broke his orbital bone, that's an exclamation point. That's the kind of thing that stays with you.
Yeah, Mark, and the way that Canelo broke Billy Joe's orbital bone is those feints. And if you guess wrong on those feints, you're going to pay. I've seen Terence Crawford compared to Bivol and Mayweather, who both beat Canelo soundly, but Crawford's really a boxer-puncher, and he's aggressive. He is there to be hit, and we're going to see if his chin can hold up.
And that example that you gave with Billy Joe Saunders, of course, someone more his size, a lot more fluid with those combinations. So he came in looking a little leaner. We'll see if, in fact, he uses that to his advantage. For more on Canelo, let's toss it right now backstage to Jim Gray.
Thanks so much, Mario. It's great to be with you. I spoke to Canelo Alvarez, and he told me he feels he is in the best shape of his life. He feels as though he is in his prime. I asked him about the risk in fighting a guy who's coming up 2 weight divisions. He said, there's a risk in every fight. I really appreciate who he is, and I respect who he is. He says, but there was no substitute at all for experience, and the experience definitely goes to Canelo Alvarez. He has twice as many rounds in his career as does Terence Crawford, and in the last 5 years, he's fought twice as many times. He said, you know, I'm 11-0 as a super middleweight, and Terence Crawford may be 41-0 as a professional fighter, but he's never won in my division. Mario, back out to you.
Thank you, Jim. Let's turn our attention to the challenger, Terence Crawford. Mark, what is it that makes him so special?
First of all, you have the greatest switch hitter in the history of the game. Second, as high an IQ as he has, that's how mean he is. There's an art to being a mean-spirited fighter. Terence has it down. But to me, the greatest talent is his mind. He has extraordinary self-belief, and that's, again, why we're here. Last summer, he spoke with Turki Al-Sheikh. Turki wanted him, hey, how about Boots Ennis? How about Virgil Ortiz? No, I want Canelo. He was asking for Canelo behind the scenes going back to 2023.
Mike, probably one of the most competitive guys we've ever seen as far as this element. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know Terence Crawford really well, Mario, and he wants to win at everything. Darts, ping pong, tennis, dominoes, it doesn't matter what it is. Crawford's competitive drive has got him to this point, because it wasn't too long ago that Crawford was overlooked. None of the big promoters wanted to sign him. Top Rank didn't push him to the greatest heights. And to be on this stage in Netflix against Canelo Alvarez, a lot of credit to Terence Crawford.
I think this could possibly be the best athlete that he's ever been in the ring with. We talking about a world-class wrestler. We talking about a guy that can play basketball. We talking about a guy that can do a lot of things. So that's what makes Crawford, to me, special. He's a heck of an athlete, bro, along with a superior boxer.
Yes, along with a killer instinct.
Yes, sir.
And he doesn't know how to lose. For more on Terence Crawford, let's toss it right now to Heidi Androl. Heidi.
Thank you so much, Mario. Well, so much has been made about the weight. I do think it's important to note that Terence Crawford came in into this training camp at 184 pounds. This isn't like a 6 or an 8-week training camp where he's built the mass to go up in 2 divisions that quickly. No, this has happened gradually, and he's learned and acclimated to fight with that mass. Now, I spoke with Sean Porter, who is a former opponent of Terence Crawford this week, about his power. He said, hey, yeah, it stings. The bee stings, it's going to get your attention. Perhaps that's all Crawford needs to do. Get Canelo's attention, make him hesitate. And remember, while he's had success, he's won against southpaws. He's only faced 2 in the past decade. Terence Crawford will be the 3rd. Now, yes, he got sparring with Boots Ennis to emulate that Terence Crawford style, but is that enough 2 sparring sessions to get his head around those quick switch instincts that Terence Crawford has? And don't assume that Canelo is going to be the stronger man on the inside. Crawford has that wrestling experience, he's physical, and the way he's built his frame may just be enough to not get pushed around in there. And if that's the case, then this is not a fight about size, it's a fight about skill. And skill for skill, well, Crawford might just be walking into one arena where Canelo can't hold the edge. Mario?
Thank you, Heidi. Now, Mark, the first image we saw not long after this fight was made was a photo of Canelo and Crawford actually enjoying a meal together.
Well, they don't necessarily like each other. Listen, I mean, the scope of this event is very purposeful. We know that this is intended to launch a new promotion. We know that the reputations of both Canelo and Crawford could be changed after this fight. We know where we're going and where we want to go, but this is how we got here.
Now, we've heated up considerably since then, but since the fight has actually been enough, where do you think their mindset is at the moment, Mike?
I think both guys are obviously here to win, Mario. There's so much on the line. I keep hearing that Canelo Alvarez has more to lose, and that is correct. Canelo said it for years. When he was asked about fighting Terence Crawford, he would say, well, why fight him? If I lose, they'll just say he was the smaller guy. But for Terence Crawford, his resume isn't that strong. If he doesn't win, people will question his legacy.
Mark, you did a special recently about how they got here. Referring to your special with the fighters on how they got here. Talk to us about that.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. As far as the fighters getting here, where they're at this moment, Canelo and Crawford, I know you got to spend some time with them recently.
We've arrived at this moment because Terence Crawford demanded it.
Don't worry, they're not friends. In fact, each man seeks to ruin what the other holds most sacred, his reputation. The question isn't how we got here, but where they're from. Canelo, international superstar so deeply rooted in Mexico. Crawford, ever the outsider, of Larimore Street in Omaha. Point of origin dictates who they are, how they'll fight, what they'll do to win. Even after tonight, how they'll be remembered. Canelo's gifts were abundant. The look, the power, the size, and a fiercely Mexican pride.
Canelo Alvarez, one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time.
They gave him more than A-side leverage. Canelo became an economy unto himself. A generation of fighters saw him not as a rival, but a payday. Oh! Meanwhile, Crawford sees his white whale.
Mamma mia!
That thing he must destroy to make him whole. If Omaha was nowhere on the boxing map, then neither was Crawford. Had to move up and wait on 9 days' notice just to get on TV and beat the Scottish champion in Scotland for that first belt.
New lightweight champion of the world!
To Crawford, Canelo's the cure. For promoters who failed to promote him, fighters who wouldn't fight him, the resentments that nourish him. That's why we're here. Pride, ego, call it what you will. One man who had to keep pushing, and another who couldn't say no.
All right, gentlemen, it is time for the boxers to hit the scales. Let's toss it down now to Max Kellerman for Canelo versus Crawford weigh-ins.
going on, everybody? Welcome to the ceremonial weigh-in, Canelo Crawford. It all goes down in 24 hours at Allegiant Stadium. You feel that, right, Canelo fans? Crawford fans? You got that little nervous feeling, right? We're within 24 hours? That's how you know it's a super fight. It is live on Netflix. 20 fighters are set to make the walk as we start with the preliminary card, live and free on YouTube. Let's kick things off in the middleweight division. First to the scale, Sauna, Slink Proper, Akale.
However, he looks really well prepared and in really good shape, Antonio.
And you know what? I just saw Akili down in Florida, right there in Osceola, Kissimmee. He fought a guy, came in the same way, 2 weeks notice, but he did fight well. He didn't get knocked out. So we'll see if he's in a little better shape than the last time. He looks good on the scale.
I'll tell you what, Mike, he's not skipping too many days at the gym right there. He looks like a well-prepared fighter.
And his opponent, Marco Verde.
Marco Verde with Canelo Alvarez, Canelo Promotions, with Eddie Reynoso, 2 pro fights, an Olympian, and a lot of people think that this is the next big thing for Mexico.
£158 for Marco Verde.
He gonna be all of it. He gonna be all of it.
And in the light heavyweight division, first to the scale, Raiko Santana.
Michael Santana's a light heavyweight, working with Crawford, I believe. He's one of those guys that came up under his gym. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. Santana. He's a guy 4 losses, lost to 3 undefeated fighters that he faced. I think this is a fight that he can possibly make it hard for his opponent, but he's going to have to show that he's more focused and dedicated than he's been in the past.
171.5 pounds for Raiko Santana. And his opponent, Steven Nelson.
Mark?
Hey, Steve Nelson remembers being at a gas station in North Omaha as a teenager, gets jumped by 20 guys. Crawford sees what's going on, doesn't like the odds, jumps to Nelson, and the next thing you know, what Nelson remembers, it's like a kung fu movie. Crawford goes through 20 guys, leaves them all, groaning, lying on the ground. It's like a Bruce Lee flick. And needless to say, they became fast friends after that. And Steve has been a presence in every Crawford camp.
Also, 171.5 pounds for Steven Nelson.
Nelson was a really crucial sparring partner for Crawford in the lead up to this fight. He's coming off a loss. There's actually a kind of career loss to Diego Pacheco. He got more notoriety, I think, Mike, in defeat than he had in a lot of his victories.
lightweight division, first to the scale, Martin Caraballo.
Caraballo was a thankless if time-honored task. Here is the opponent. 0-0-1, a draw in his pro debut 114 days ago. On the bright side, never been knocked down, and trained by a Hall of Famer, Ada Velez, a member of the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. His pops is also in the corner.
£133 for Martin Caraballo. And his opponent, Sultan Al-Mohammed.
Mike El Nino coming to the ring. To the scales, I should say.
Yeah, Sultan Al-Mohammed, one of two fighters, Mario, on this card, like Mighty Mo Al-Khal, that is a young fighter from Saudi Arabia trying to make their mark and become the first champion from the region. And like Mighty Mo, also training in Big Bear with Abel Sanchez. That's the Mexican trainer, of course, that guided Triple G to his Hall of Fame career.
132.5 pounds for Sultan Al-Mohammed. To the super featherweight division. First to the scale, Javier Martinez.
Out of Dallas, Texas, Javier Martinez says when he lost in April, it came after retirement, a time of drinking, trouble, and really trying to forget boxing. Therapy, his father's support, and his wonderful girlfriend Iris helped turn it around for him. He was really emotional in the fighter meetings this week. He told us, "I was always a winner to my dad." And now with his timing back, he plans to go out there and capitalize on Tsutsumi's lack of experience and prove he's back and make his father proud once again.
129.5 pounds for Javier Martinez. And his opponent, Raito Tsutsumi.
Rito Tatsumi, 2-0, 1 KO, a power puncher from Japan, has shown glimpses of a promising star. A lot of people believe he's the next to carry the torch for Japan once Inoue, Inoue, and Nakatani retires. This guy is special because he's the favorite fighter of Your Excellency, Turki Al-Sheikh.
Also,
and he comes from a fighting family. He has a brother also that's 5-0. Tatsumi, remember that name, from Japan.
to the heavyweight division. First to the scale, Jermaine Franklin Jr.
Jermaine Franklin, very experienced fighter. His two losses to Dillian White and one of the best fighters in the heavyweight division over the past 10 years, and Anthony Joshua. Doesn't always come in the best shape, but after coming in bad shape against White, improved his physique against Anthony Joshua. And I think this is going to be one of the best fights on the undercard. Ivan Ditchko is a real prospect, and Jermaine Franklin's going to be the toughest opponent of his career.
256 pounds for Jermaine Franklin Jr. And his opponent, Ivan Ditchko.
Ivan Ditchko is a guy with great pedigree, two-time Olympic medalist, great amateur wins over Zhilei Zhang, Filip Hrgovic, Bakadir Jalilov, trains out of Pittsburgh. He knows what he's here to do, revive his career, and he does that by staying in the center of the ring, setting up his right hand with a jab and knocking out Jermaine Franklin, who's, by the way, never been down.
239.5 pounds for Ivan Ditchko.
Looks like you, Cop.
All bald guys look alike, huh?
Some big boys.
Yeah, you see Jermaine Franklin talking about how he had the improved physique against Joshua. Now he's in that similar weight that he was against Dillian White. So he's taking a step backward now.
And in the middleweight division, first to the scale, Brandon Adams.
36 years old, Brandon the Cannon Adams grew up in South Central Los Angeles, pulled up the streets and into the gym at 19, turned amateur at 20, and at 21 he was a pro. You see him wearing the gray wig. It's because his opponent said he was old. Yesterday at the press conference, he ripped his shirt off. I have a feeling he's going to do that again. Here he goes. He said, "I'm not old. If this looks old, I don't know." You know, back in 2019, he went the distance with Jamal Charlo for a world title. His career's been interrupted.
156 pounds for Brandon Adams.
It's been interrupted by a lot of layoffs from promotional problems, but he's back and he plans to do exactly what he did in the rematch back in 2020.
Sergey Bohachuk, this is a rematch of a very impressive fight. He had this fight with Brandon all the way sealed until he made one mistake and got clipped before the ending of the fight. So he's here to avenge that one loss, the first loss that started the slide. And then he was eventually faced with Virgil, and
yeah, look, and after that loss, Bohachuk last year, one of the best fighters in the sport, Virgil Ortiz, Bohachuk drops him twice, and he loses the fight on the cards. A lot of people thought he won that fight.
Yes, myself included. He's one of the most exciting fighters right now. I think he's developed so quickly, so he's more than ready for the moment.
And also, if he can avenge his first loss, that'll be big for him.
Right. That'll be a huge step backward if he can.
Imagine losing to a gray-haired guy.
And don't forget also, Brandon Adams gave Jamal Charlo a very good fight.
Yeah. And you can see he's an entertainer. I think we need more of that in boxing.
Just like you, right?
Most definitely.
For the main card, live on Netflix. Up first, the lightweight division. First to the scale, Travis Crawford.
Travis Crawford, obviously no relation to Terence Crawford. He's just 22 years old from Corpus Christi, Texas. He started training at 10 years old, rose to become a Texas Golden Gloves boxer, and now he gets to finish what he started on one of boxing's biggest stages. And this is big for him, guys, because in 2 weeks, he leaves for Army basic training to pursue his dream of becoming an Army Ranger.
132.5 pounds for Travis Crawford. And his opponent, Mohamed Alakel.
And again, mighty Mo Alakel. You mentioned Sultan Al Muhammad earlier. Like him, trying to become the first champion from Saudi Arabia. It's a big aim for His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. And you see him there with Abel Sanchez, great trainer, training in the altitude, leaving the comfort of his home as a young kid. What I really like here too, Mario, is he's fighting just 28 days later. When you're a young fighter, right, Antonio? You want to get that activity going
as much as possible, which seems to be lost these days, unfortunately.
And to the middleweight division, first to the scale, Lester Martinez.
Now this is a fight I'm really excited about, gentlemen. I think Christian Mabili is one of the most exciting fighters on the scene right now. But Lester Martinez coming in undefeated with 19-0, Mark.
I mean, he's a really important sparring partner, Lester Martinez, for Terence Crawford. I mean, that may be his ultimate contribution to to the evening. I'll tell you what, though, he's in tough. He's in tough against Christian and Billy.
167 pounds for Lester Martinez.
Pride of Guatemala.
Yeah, look, in my opinion, this isn't just the best undercard fight. It could steal the show.
Christian and Billy.
And Billy, you see there, grew up hungry in Cameroon. Kid who lived on potatoes with a little bit of salt. When he was 12, he emigrated to France, learned how to fight, and he still fights very, very hungry. And Billy knows exactly what he wants here. A fight of the year, a knockout, the kind that will generate enough buzz to get him his ultimate dream, a fight with, guess
Also,
who? Canelo.
167 pounds for Christian and Billy.
Look at that physique, Mario.
Oh, no, all these guys are coming in jacked. Talk about a television-friendly fighter, though. You always get your money's worth.
We got to get you training in the gym alongside him.
First to the scale, Fernando Vargas Jr.
Fernando Vargas Jr., of course, the son of former world champion Fernando Vargas, trained by his father. Junior didn't actually start boxing until he was 17 years old, but he's quite the athlete. He was a standout as a basketball player, played baseball, picked it up really quickly, is used to moments like this being with his father, being that his father was on these stages many, many times. He feels that Callum Walsh has been carefully selecting his opponents and is sort of a byproduct of marketing, and he feels more than ready for the moment. This is his first time that he's coming in as an underdog. He's 3-0 against Southpaws, and he's 15. He's got 15 knockouts out of his 17 fights, so the kid could definitely punch.
Yeah, and look, Mario, worth noting here that it's his brother, Emiliano, who's the hot prospect. So he has a chance right now to change that narrative.
Well, that's another thing, is fighting out of the shadow of both your father and one of your younger brother, who really is quite the standout.
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with the Vargases. We were on the same Olympic team. Really proud of these guys.
This is exactly the kind of fight that's missing from boxing. Two young, undefeated guys who are still prospects. And I guarantee you, if they fight well, neither of them will lose. They'll both benefit from the shine they get on this.
King Callum Walsh, man, 14-0, 11 KOs, ending an 84-day layoff. There's a kid with a lot of confidence. He's Ireland's favorite son, but he's made his home here in America. He's headlined 10 of the last 11 fights right here in the States. And if he can beat the young Fernando Vargas Jr., here's a star in the making.
It's fiery.
Hey, and look, Fernando Vargas Jr. has his dad on stage, but Callum Walsh has his Uncle Dana there. That is Dana White's pet project. This guy has sold out the theater at Madison Square Garden. He's a big attraction, and Dana White believes in him.
And now we're going to take a closer look at the two boxing legends in our main event.
The ultimate promise of sports is simple. The best must meet the best. It's what every fan demands. It's what every era remembers. Tonight, two of history's greatest step into the same arena and put legacy against legacy. When greatness meets greatness and the dust settles, who will remain standing?
How many fighters have ever been called the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? There haven't been that many, ever. These are two of them. Canelo Alvarez, the biggest star in boxing. Oh! faces Terence "Bud" Crawford, a man who still holds the distinction in the minds of many as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
Crawford on top of him now, trying to finish the deal. It's all over.
I want to be remembered as one of the all-time greats, and I gotta go through Canelo to do it.
Crawford is fighting a guy 3 divisions bigger, and he's a killer. But Crawford's special. Fighters like Crawford come every now and then. He's a different breed.
Terence Crawford, he is on a whole nother level. The only male to become a 2-division undisputed champion.
He's a great fighter. He's a legend. But you know, he's no Canelo.
Canelo Alvarez, one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time. Oh! There's a reason why he's the man. He is one of the best finishers in all of boxing.
Canelo looking to close the show.
Hovland's hurt. Hovland's down. Hovland's out.
And the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez.
Nobody in this world is untouchable.
I ain't scared of shit. I stepped to him and showed him who was the boss of this fight.
He never fought anybody like me. I want to make history.
The fight, it is over.
I'm an elite fighter. You know I'm different.
All hail the king.
This is my era, and ain't nobody gonna stop me.
You're gonna be just like everybody else. Watch.
It's gonna be one of my best victories in my career.
Viva Mexico, cabrones!
We're gonna make history. Terence Crawford, 3-time undisputed champion of the world.
I'm on our way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Terence "Bud" Crawford.
Hey, I don't know what everybody's booing for. Guy's making a run at immortality with no catch weight, no rehydration clause, no excuses. That is so rare in today's boxing.
It really goes with his personality, Mark, because he's never backed down from any challenge. And he looks more well prepared than ever.
For Terence "Bud" Crawford. And his opponent, Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo Alvarez, he is the singular face of boxing. He's been the biggest star in the sport for some time now. And I agree, let's give Terence Crawford all the credit for no rehydration clause. But Canelo Alvarez, his 2 losses to Floyd Mayweather with a rehydration clause and at a catch weight, and then to Dimitri Bivol at 175. At 168, I think that's his best weight, Mario.
And that's the thing, Mike. He dares to be great. He takes on the best challenges. He's challenged himself a higher weight. He's now facing pound for pound, arguably the best fighter in the game. That's why it means so much to their legacy.
167.
Both of these guys are ready. I like what I saw from the scales, man. The fight of the century. Wow.
Man, he just cut up his Nino Coppinger.
I mean, I keep hearing about how Terence Crawford and Canelo are the same size, but they clearly aren't. Am I blind?
Yeah. Look, I'm surprised.
Crawford has always been a strong individual, even if it doesn't translate necessarily to his fists and strong strength. You can't move him around. He's got that country strength, if you will, and he's very strong when you go inside on him.
And Mario, in every boxing match, a fight has broken out. And I believe when the fight breaks out, I think Terence Crawford's mentality is going to give him an edge in this fight.
I think that Crawford thinks of himself as the bigger fighter, he's also the kind of guy, it's wrestling strength. I mean, he wrestled as a kid.
Right.
He's really good at, he refuses to be manhandled.
You're exactly right. Again, a credit to his strength.
Yeah, look, I don't think the strength is going to be the issue for Terence Crawford. We saw in that round 2 against Errol Spence, he threw him across the ring. And he's really strong.
You look like you trained for speed. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I train for everything. I get back in basic. I need to put everything in this fight.
Thank you, Canelo. And we got Terence "Bud" Crawford making his way over here. Bud, you weighed in at 167.5 pounds, by far the heaviest of your career. How does it feel?
Lovely. I feel wonderful. I can't wait till tomorrow.
Thank you, Bud.
So, gentlemen, we saw two guys who looked incredible at the scales, but because he looked great at the scales, it doesn't necessarily mean he'll be able to handle that weight effectively. We're going to find out tomorrow night, and of course I'm meaning about Bud.
In less than 24 hours, that's what you're feeling. We're going to see you tomorrow night.
Like I was saying, Mike, Charlo, Brooke, Khan, they all look great on the scales, but it ended up catching up with them later on in the ring.
Yeah, look, I think the key to this fight, Mario, is that Canelo's power is going to be a lot for Crawford to deal with. He goes to the body, he goes to the chin. Like we said earlier, Eddie Reynoso, when he's teaching you to throw those feints, he wants you to throw everything hard. So if you guess wrong, it's night-night.
Hey, I hear you guys talking a lot about Charlo. That was a fight that Crawford watched very intensely, up close, ringside. And by then, he was full-on scouting Canelo. That's the guy he wanted. And he says there's a big difference between himself and a lot of the recent opponents Canelo has faced. A guy like Charlo, this is Crawford talking, said his victory was surviving. His victory was going 12 rounds. I'm going there to take him out.
Well, that's been the case for a lot of guys, Antonio. They're happy to show up, they're happy to collect the paycheck, but no one has really dared to win. I think that's going to be different with Bud tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think Canelo is going to feel that this guy, this young man, this man is more determined than anybody I've ever been in there with. And like I said, he's a sharp puncher. That's a different field than just these guys landing. He got GPS on his punches. He knows exactly where they're going. And that makes Bud Crawford a dangerous fighter tomorrow night. He could be stronger than Canelo physically.
Well, if we're basing it off those last fights, we saw Canelo win against a very active William Skull in the sense that where it was more of a track meet. Was he a little long in the tooth? Is he now somewhat incapable of being able to cut off the ring? Or does Bud, with the extra weight, does that weigh on him? Will that come into effect in the later rounds and he'll slow down and tired and get caught with something?
Well, I just want to add on that. It's his intensity. He has to keep that intensity up. And a lot of times he starts slow. He throws one punch at a time. That ain't going to get it done with Terence Crawford. He's going to have to go back to cutting that ring off and throwing combination punches if you want that power to be effective tomorrow.
Terence Crawford was really frank with me the other day about his game plan. I said, listen, I'm not the A side. I understand that. The crowd's going to be with Canelo. I have to presume that the judges will be with Canelo. What that means is he can't do what he usually does, Crawford. He cannot start slow and download all the information. He's got to get on him from the jump. He admitted this to me. He says, not only do I have to bank rounds, I have to win them decisively. And this is not going to be a friendly crowd for him.
And you know, Mike, that's the thing. If Terence gets off to a fast start and Canelo lets him, he tends to tire a little towards the end. That may catch up. if the fact that's the case and Bud is able to withstand those extra pounds.
Yeah, and look, now Terence Crawford has all this extra weight on. Weight makes you burn out faster. So I think Canelo Alvarez is going to have a better second half of the fight. I do think Terence Crawford is going to be up on the cards going into it. And I just think that not enough people are talking about Canelo Alvarez's power. He's dropped 4 of his last 5 opponents. William Skull was running around the ring. And that fight was at 6 in the morning. It was a little tough. It was in Riyadh. I also want to mention here, Canelo Alvarez wasn't at his best shape against William Skull. That fight was 4 months ago. He told me in training camp that he's always better in September than May.
You know, there's only one time in my career that I felt going into a fight that I had to knock a man out. I knew I couldn't go to the judges, and I believe Terence Crawford here in Vegas feels the same way about Canelo. He feels he may have to knock Canelo out to get this victory tomorrow.
He's going to go for it. He's going to go for it. I know that he's been talking about for a while now, something I've never seen a weakness in, but Canelo's chin. And that's the difference in temperament between Terence Crawford and all these other guys that he's been facing for the last few years.
And Mark, as we hear this mariachi music and Vicente Fernandez play, the fact that it is Mexican Independence Day weekend and it's going to be at the peak really of the year where the biggest fights sort of happen. Canelo's been in this moment many times, and he has so much pride with the country literally riding on his back. Will Bud be a little bit overwhelmed by the moment? I know he's been on the big stages, but it's a different thing when you're facing Canelo, especially in this weekend.
I don't think that he'll be overwhelmed by the moment. I think this is the moment that he's been asking for. He's finally got it. You don't ask for something like this if you think you're going to be overwhelmed. I think that on the other side, this is a high-value target, a great fight, a fight that can change boxing history. I think that Canelo will get up for it in a way that, listen, if I'm Canelo, I'm fighting William Skull in the middle of the night, I'm not really getting up for that. You give me Terence Crawford who's calling me out, yo, bring it, come on, let's go.
Especially on this weekend, Mike. I mean, he's always in shape, but he looked really dialed in tonight.
Yeah, and look, Mario, we talk all about Terence Crawford as a dog. I've heard it about 1,000 times this week alone. Canelo Alvarez didn't get to this point in his career because he's not prideful. He hears everybody picking Terence Crawford, and he wants to prove them wrong. I think even if he has lost just a little bit of a step, he has one last great fight in him.
And that's the thing, Antonio. They're both dogs, like Mike said. They both got that mean streak. They both know how to finish strong, and they both have a lot of pride. So on paper, it should be an incredible fight.
Most definitely incredible. Not only that, I'm expecting the unexpected tomorrow night, bro. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
That's going to make it even more better, and it's live right here on Netflix, man. The fight of the century.
Do you know how big an ego you need to do? No, seriously. You need to be kind of crazy to step in there from the jump. Sure. But in a fight like this, to ask for what Crawford's asked for, you got to be a little bit nuts. And I mean that with
respectfully.
With great admiration. But think about what he's doing at his age. And I don't know what the mega fight precedent for this is, but he's almost 38. Ray Leonard was 32 when he fought Hagler. Spinks, 29 when he went up against Holmes. Pacquiao, 30 when he fought De La Hoya. A guy to go up that much at this point in his career is really rather extraordinary.
And
he thinks he's Superman.
Well, you know what, and he should, because he essentially jumped 3 weight classes. He made a pit stop at 154, and dare I say, he looked rather pedestrian that night. It was a very close, tough fight. Now you're asking him to go up yet another 2 weight classes against the undisputed champion who's had many fights there, elite fighter, on Mexican Independence Day, on the weekend. It's a tall task.
And look, it was a very close fight against Israel Madrimov. Madrimov's a good fighter, but again, that was at 54. Crawford, the last time he's fought more than once in his year, 2019. The last 5 years, Crawford's had 5 fights. In that same time span, Mario, 10 fights for Canelo Alvarez. So I think he's biting off a light here. And we saw Alexander Usyk, the pound-for-pound champ, and he had 2 fights at heavyweight first. Chaz Witherspoon, Derek Chisora, got his feet wet before he fought Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
Antonio, the thing is that I'm not even so concerned about the weight, because I think Crawford is a very strong guy. Obviously, it is a factor. The inactivity, I think, plays a bigger factor to me. Your thoughts?
You know, I would have wanted to see him get a rep. It's been over a year since he's been in the ring. You know, he's been doing a lot of media work, you know, going over to Saudi Arabia and everything. I would have loved to have seen him get a rep in maybe 4 months ago, just somewhere in the 54, maybe 60 range, you know, and then give him a camp on top of a camp. So if he needs a fill-out, a couple fill-out rounds, it might be tough going for him in the early beginnings.
Inactivity can go both ways. Terence Crawford has fought 248 rounds. Canelo, 520. So I asked Crawford, who's older in boxing years? He goes, he is definitely, he's been a pro. He turned pro when he was 15. I'm fresher. Let me tell you, Mike, something to unpack about the Madrimal fight. I asked Crawford about it, you know, wasn't your greatest performance? He goes, yeah, but the way that he bounced, the way that he moved, there's no one like that. I guess he was getting used to the weight too, but he goes, that's not Canelo. I don't have to worry about that type of rhythm here.
That's true. As far as the twitchy muscles and the footwork, he doesn't have to worry about that, but he should be a little bit more worried about the power that's coming back because he's never faced a fighter with the power of Canelo.
And look, we have seen Crawford rocks before. Yuriorkis Gamboa, years ago at 135, buckled him. Mean Machine, that should have been scored a knockdown. Crawford is a great offensive fighter. He is not a great defensive fighter. And Canelo Alvarez is a monster puncher, and he's a big-time body puncher, and I think that could be the key to this fight.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, Antonio, Canelo is obviously the bigger man. He's the younger man. He's the man that's been more active. So strategically, what do you feel he has to do to end up getting his hand raised?
I think he got to go back in time a little bit and get back to the point where he was with when he defeated Plant. He showed a lot of ability in that fight. And right here, he still has one-punch knockout power. He hurt Berlanga with that. He dropped McGill with the uppercut also. So that one-punch power is still there. And also right here, the exchanges. He has to win the exchanges inside. You know, he can't let Crawford hurt him or get off those good shots inside. He got to dominate that.
And Mark, those are big guys. That's a 200-pound Berlanga that he faced in the ring that he ended up dropping. And Munguia actually gained a lot of weight too. So these are big men that he's hurting and dropping.
I still think there's something to what Crawford said, which is that a victory for these guys was in signing the contract. A victory for a lot of these guys was in surviving the 12 rounds. He has one-punch power, yeah, but he hasn't had one-punch knockout power in the last 4 years. I mean, you know, he took out Caleb Plant, which is an extraordinary feat in itself. Okay, great, but the idea that he can throw one punch and take you out, maybe, but maybe not. And we have not seen it for a while.
And you've got to be there to be hit, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. And look, obviously Terence Crawford is way more skillful than those guys you mentioned, but it doesn't matter how skillful you are because if you get hit right on the chin, it only takes one punch. And again, Canelo Alvarez, he has that power, and I disagree. I do think all four of those guys came to win. I think Canelo beat the fight out of them, and once they got dropped, they went into a shell.
Look, the one thing strategically or psychologically, however you want to parse it, that's really interesting about Crawford is that when he gets hit, he'll want to get his back immediately. Now, that's going to open him up. So, you know, he's not going to be cute about it. Once he gets hit, he wants to come back. Can he temper that instinct? Because I agree with you in so much as this. His temperament will make him vulnerable at one point in this fight.
Yes, he is a disciplined fighter, though, and Canelo is no stranger to taking big risks himself. He, of course, fought Mayweather when he was 23 years old, and he took on Triple G in his prime 3 times, mind you. What does this fight mean to Canelo's legacy, being that he's the biggest star, really, in the sport?
If Canelo win this fight going away and maybe even stop Bud Crawford, I mean, he the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, if you ask me, by his accolades and the things he's done. You know, it's been 6-7 years he's had these dates locked in, you know what I mean? And it goes for the face of boxing and the biggest Mexican star, and he's been that for many, many years now.
That's the winning recipe at the end of the day, Mike.
Yeah, and look, we've heard it for years, right, Mario? It's a two-man conversation for the greatest fighter in the history of Mexico. There's Canelo Alvarez and there's Julio Cesar Chavez. And if Canelo loses this fight to Crawford, that will get questioned tenfold. And don't forget, right, David Benavidez has been calling for a fight for a long time. If Canelo loses to Crawford, people will say, well, that's why he didn't want to fight Benavidez.
Mark, a number of men have pulled off big weight jumps in the century that this sport has been around. Some with success, some with not.
I think that this is Crawford's way of loading it so much to say, hey, now you must recognize me. In Crawford's mind, the jump is so big. And again, it's without any of the nonsense clauses we've become accustomed to. What he's demanding is like, hey, I'm an immortal. I win this, I'm an immortal. I think conversely, there is great risk for Canelo. It's like, hey, if you didn't want the big guy in Benavidez, you better beat up the small guy. And my feeling is that Canelo is so keenly aware, not just of his place in the game, but to me, what's even more sacred is his place, as you guys were talking about before, his place in Mexican boxing. One of the things that we lose sight of with Canelo, because he is the sport's most powerful economic engine, is that he came up the old school way. I mean, he might be boxing's leading man. He might be getting $100+ million for this fight, which, by the way, is a role that was denied generations of Mexican fighters, including Julio Cesar Chavez. But people lose sight of the fact that Canelo came up in a very old school way, fighting for money at 15 years old.
Absolutely. Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Yeah. He had it growing up. Very, very tough. That's why he turned to the sport so young. And there's no denying he's been the biggest box office star in Mexico. So hopefully we'll see if that translates after this fight, hand in hand with they'll look at him over Julio Cesar Chavez.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a feat for it'd be a hell of a feat for Saul Canelo Alvarez to be named and respected and veered as the best Mexican fighter of all time. That's a big feather in your cap, and I think he's one win away from having that on his hat.
Absolutely. Look at the greats who made the jump. All but one of these names on this list, winner or loser, are in the Boxing Hall of Fame today. Antonio, you can make an excuse for the loser in almost every one of the fights on this list. If Canelo does lose, he does so without one. So how could Crawford's added weight affect him in the ring?
His added weight is going to allow him to take more shots from Canelo and have him stay around a lot longer. You know what I mean? If that chin holds up. I still don't know if he can take a clean shot from Canelo Alvarez, and that remains to be seen. But if he can, that changes the dynamics of the game.
That's exactly right. And Mark, just because of the added weight, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll translate to the chin.
The chin. You hit it right. I know that at 147, Terence Crawford has a great chin. You add 21 pounds, I don't know. You know, I mean, I know that he will be physically strong. I have a sense that his boxing ability, he'll be somewhat like Terence Crawford, but you never know until you take that shot, you know?
And I want to say, right, you see sometimes when fighters move up in weight, they lose their power. Teofimo Lopez can't crack an egg, it seems, at 140, big puncher at 135. But Terence Crawford, when he went up to 147, he somehow added a ton of power. We didn't see that as one fight, what you called a pit stop, at 154, but just maybe he has power at 168.
Well, Antonio, what are the keys to victory for Bud Crawford tomorrow night?
I just think Bud has to be Bud, but he has to do it in a real aggressive fashion. You know, he got to let both hands go. He can't afford to stay there too long. He got to get his and get gone. I think it's the Matador and the Bull. That's the only way I can see it. Him giving him angles, turning Canelo into him, and winning those exchanges. And he can't get hurt. That's it. He just can't get hurt tomorrow.
Well, Mark, we just saw Kell Brook, who ironically also went up 2 weight classes and had an unsuccessful bid against Triple G and got himself really hurt, which I believe of a broken orbital bone. But Terence is really the epitome of the athlete who carries a chip on his shoulder. He's got that killer instinct. Where do you think that attribute comes from?
I've never seen a guy for whom resentment and doubt were more important. It's like Canelo, Crawford depends on it. Please doubt me. Please dog me. I need you to say something bad about me. And he has I've never seen anyone with quite the mindset of Terence Crawford. I think it begins in Omaha, which was absolutely nowhere in the boxing world before he made it somewhere. But even more than that, it begins with his mother. And he'll tell you the story when he goes to win his first title in Scotland against Ricky Burns, a Scottish champion. And all alone, his mom tells him, like, you know, you're just going to get your butt kicked. And look, she'll tell you, Mrs. Crawford will tell you, like, I was just trying to motivate him. And she did. Terence will tell you the same thing, that the whole time he was searching for his mother's love, his mother's respect, but it made him a killer in the ring.
It really did, and it started ever since he was a little kid, Mike.
Yeah, look, he has that dog in him, like we keep saying, and he has that chip on his shoulder, but so too does Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, for a long time, was the pound-for-pound king. After he lost to Bivol, that's gone. And when you hear people talking about who's number one, they say, well, maybe it's Usyk, maybe it's the monster Naoya Inoue, maybe it's Terence Crawford. Canelo's never in that conversation. If you look in the list now, he's usually 6 at best, and I think that really does bother Canelo.
And Crawford has been defying the odds since the day he stepped into the ring. And Mark, I know you've covered him for years now, and you know there's more to Bud than just the knockouts and the victories.
13 months ago, Crawford sat down with Turki Al-Sheikh after the Majmal fight, for which my friend over here, Coppinger, is dogging Crawford. And Turki says, who do you want? He says, Canelo. He goes, well, you know, what about the weight? He goes, I'll move up. He goes, well, maybe you could fight Virgil. Maybe you could fight Boots Ennis. Maybe you could fight someone that's more. No, I want Canelo, and I want only Canelo, and that's why we're here.
Boxing history favors the bigger man, the younger one, the so-called A-side. Terence Crawford is none of those things. In fact, by fight night, he'll be a couple weeks removed from his 38th birthday, 5 weight classes heavier than he was for his first title.
Omaha's first born and raised world champion.
And still looking for the respect that eluded him as the first undisputed 2-division champion in boxing's 4-belt era.
Crawford cranked him again.
He's right where he wants to be right now. He's always dreamed about being a world champion and being pound for pound one of the best.
Still, it was Crawford who asked for this fight.
I've been preparing my whole life for this moment. Ain't no holding me back.
Crawford who pushed for it. Crawford who wouldn't say no.
Crawford coming in. Lundy trying to fire back. That's it.
And if conventional wisdom doesn't apply here, it's because there's never been a fighter quite like him. So ripe with contradictions.
He is the best U.S.-born and raised talent.
Omaha, Nebraska might not be much of a fight town, but here's its first ballot Hall of Famer.
Few things in sports are better than a homegrown world champion carrying the pride of his people.
And in a sport where so many are extensions of their fathers, Crawford's a mama's boy.
Oh, mamma mia!
Just as he switches from orthodox to southpaw,
Beautiful look.
so does he move from cruel.
In terms of boxing ability, why, he's got it all.
To kind. From beneficent patriarch, pillar of the community.
He was brought up in the tough streets of Omaha.
Guy who was born with an inner fire.
To merciless predator.
The left, the right, Errol Spence on inline skates, and the referee has intervened.
A mean streak with tactical brilliance.
What a huge right hand.
The weight, the age. Bud Crawford doesn't care.
Very technical fighter, good skills. He's got speed and movement.
He's less driven to make boxing history
Crawford gets up.
than defy it.
It's all over. Terence Crawford, you are a superstar.
There you have it. All these other guys look at Canelo as a payday, a score. Crawford sees him as his white whale, the thing he has to destroy. That doesn't mean that he's unreasonable. He has a pretty sober sense of what he has to do tomorrow night. He has to bank rounds early. He can't come off to a slow start. He can't take time downloading. He has to win them, and he has to win them decisively.
I think that's a great game plan, supremely confident. And Mike, I know you wrote the very first national magazine story on Crawford back in 2013 for Ring Magazine. And what caught your attention about him when he was just a young, precocious, talented fighter from Omaha?
You know, I just kept hearing about Terence Crawford. This kid from Omaha is super talented, mean streak, and his manager at the time, Cameron Duncan, who had guided Kelly Pavlik, Tim Bradley, and Onito Donaire, kept saying, this is the next guy, you have to meet him. And when I met Crawford in Omaha, I was struck right away by his incredible, compulsive competitiveness.
And Antonio, Crawford seems to have impressed everyone, especially when you spend some time with him and you get to see him in person. And he's just continued to excel and get better, even with all his championships.
Yeah, I think when he's really determined to get the fans' appreciation. He want to be revered as one of the best fighters of all time. And I think he feels like he has to prove it by beating a living legend like Canelo. You know what I mean? If you can win and even stop a guy like Canelo, man, that puts you in another realm. You know what I mean? When it comes to, you know, legendary boxing. You know, most of us get this legendary status once we're gone. You know, it's hard to say that you're a living legend amongst us right now.
I'm going to tell you what. If he does what you just mentioned, if he does take out Canelo, you're going to have to rewrite the history books of the sport.
Well, that's the thing, Mark. Crawford turned professional at 20 years old, but Canelo was already beating tough veterans in 12-round fights at 20 years old. He turned pro at 15. How rare is that by today's standards? I don't know if we'll see numbers like 70 fights, unfortunately, at least anytime soon.
I think it's one of the things that because Canelo has become such an extraordinary star, he's crossed over, he's so lucrative that you do lose sight. And I think it's like the red hair is almost like a decoy. It's like, oh, he's special. And you forget that he came up in this very, very old school way, fighting for money in places that no one ever heard of over here when he's 15 years old.
Well, that's the thing, Mike. He mentions the red hair, and he said it's always like a chip on his shoulder. He used to get picked a lot, and he still has that guy getting picked on sort of mentality as he enters the ring. He's a mean guy in there.
He really is. He's a massive puncher, and again, he earned his place as the face of boxing, and I think it's something he really takes very seriously. I think you have to give him a lot of credit, and it's one of the hallmarks of Canelo's legacy, because you see a lot of other guys, they fight maybe once a year, once every 18 months. I know Canelo loves boxing, but I think he really feels a duty to the boxing fans and to the sport to fight twice or even 3 times in a single year.
Don't tell that to David Benavidez.
Well, that's the thing. By today's standards, he's very active.
Yeah, I want to point out something. When you look at Crawford's age, 38, where has he been? He's a late bloomer. You feel me? When he was 28, 27, he wasn't in the pound-for-pound category or conversation. He wasn't.
You know why he's a late bloomer?
He's a late bloomer.
You know why? Because he didn't get the opportunities. He wasn't an Olympian.
Right.
He was from Omaha. He was doubted. You talk about Canelo's chip. This is Crawford's chip. And I've never seen a fighter who needs this so much, but you know, he feels that Top Rank denied him opportunities. I think he's upset with PBC. They withheld their champions from him for so long. He never had the stage. He never had the opponents to prove himself. We can talk about, oh, he was at 130, and who did he fight at 140? He's been dying for this, and he's trying to get it back all in one shot.
And now that makes sense. He's trying to make up for all that lost time. And he could have been one of the best fighters in the world, but just wasn't getting the recognition.
He is one of the best fighters in the world.
But I'm saying
and
back
he's made
then,
it the hard way.
Yes, sir.
And as far as his age, too, he's a very well-preserved, almost 38. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, take care of himself. You never see pictures or video of him out of shape. And he does always rise to the occasion when it comes to these sort of moments.
We know Canelo Alvarez like the tequila every now and again. That might be the
nothing wrong with that, though, Antonio. That's medicinal.
Never been beat up.
Yeah.
Never been beat up, Crawford.
Yes.
And I think, you know, it's hard to, one of the things that's interesting in handicapping the fight is that when you've never seen a guy hurt, I mean, you tell me about Gamboa, okay, it's a long time ago. If you've never seen him down, if you've never seen him hurt, it's hard to imagine it. You know, I mean,
he doesn't know how.
Right.
He doesn't know how. Now, the last time Mexico saw a fighter reach the pound-for-pound throne was when the pound-for-pound list was just starting to be put together. Julio Cesar Chavez reigned in the top spot for years on his way to a 90-fight unbeaten streak. And all the love of all Mexico, of course. The same country had high hopes for Canelo from an early age. It's sort of the LeBron James and Michael Jordan debate in Mexico. And it's not quite clear who is the GOAT. In Mexico, boxing is more than a sport. It's an identity. And for years, one man sat at the heart of that devotion. Julio Cesar Chavez, a fighter of the people. El verdadero guerrero de Culiacán. He wasn't just unbeaten for 90 fights. He was untouchable.
Siempre pues tenía a todo México detrás de mí. Era algo increíble cuando yo peleaba. Entonces eso era una gran responsabilidad para mí.
In living rooms all across the country, altars bore 2 images, La Virgen de Guadalupe and Chavez. Chavez didn't just fight.
He carried a nation on his back.
Siempre me esperaba la afición en el aeropuerto, del aeropuerto hasta mi casa, las calles inundadas de gente, victoriándome.
But now a new name echoes across the same soil, a boy from Guadalajara who grew into a world champion. Saul Canelo Alvarez, champion of 4 divisions, undisputed at 168, an evolution from the Mexican style to a style all his own.
My style is special because I can do everything. I can go forward, I can counter punch, depends on my opponent. I can do whatever I want.
Canelo has always spoken of Chavez with reverence, like a student admiring the master, even jumping into Chavez's corner for his final exhibition fight.
Le digo que se suba para que esté en mi esquina. Pues lo vi tan emocionado, ¿no? Tan contento, emocionado. La amistad muy bonita, muy buena.
But as Canelo's resume has grown, so has the conversation. Who is Mexico's greatest fighter? It's the same debate every generation faces. Is there a LeBron without MJ? A Brady without Montana? A Tiger without Nicholas? A Djokovic without Federer? But who among each pair reigns supreme as the GOAT?
You can see why he is still the king of boxing.
All over Mexico and even in America, the debate rages on. Who gave more? Who beat better men? Who meant more? But perhaps this isn't a rivalry. Maybe this is a lineage. From El Gran Campeón to Canelo.
Cada quien hace su historia. Somos diferentes peleadores. Pero lo que sí te puedo decir es que Canelo está entre los 5 boxeadores más grandes de México.
I care about legacy because when I start boxing, I say I'm going to be one of the best fighters in the world. We have a lot of talents in Mexico, and I'm very proud about being part of them.
In Mexico, boxing greatness is not measured just in belts, but in how deep your name runs through the blood of your people. And no matter who your GOAT is, there's no denying this. Canelo Alvarez is no longer walking in Chavez's shadow. He's casting one of his own.
And now we welcome Callum Walsh to the desk. Welcome, Callum. You and Fernando Jr. have seemed to be on this collision course to prove who, in fact, is the better, younger fighter. What are your thoughts about your opponent as you prepare to face him tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. This is a massive weekend for the Mexican fighters, for the Mexican fans, and I'm trying to make it just as good of a weekend for the Irish fighters and the Irish fans, So, yeah, I'm fighting a very good opponent. He's 17-0, I'm 14-0. We're both young fighters putting our records on the line, and I think this needs to happen more in boxing. People need to be willing to take a chance, to give the fans what they want, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
I commend you on taking such a tough fight with your undefeated record. I'm also in agreement with you that we should have these type of fights more often. My question to you, you spent most of your time over here in America, and I know you're hungry to get back. If you're victorious tomorrow night, I know you plan on headlining one at home for us, right?
Yeah, definitely. I got back there recently. I headlined the show in Dublin. But I'm from Cork. I would love to get back there after a win here and headline the show back in my hometown. Definitely.
Awesome. Callum, I'm down to go to Cork. Okay. I am. You said something in the fighter meetings that struck me. Deep down, Vargas knows I'm going to win. He knows he's in too deep. What did you see in his eyes up there today?
Yeah, I think he believes he can win. Well, he hopes he can win. I think he's enjoying the spotlight here a bit too much. I see him in the back. He's messing around with the brothers, and they're all enjoying it while they can, I think. I think he's trying to get as much promotion from this as possible, because when we get into the ring, it's just going to be me and him. I'm here by myself with just my coaches, and I'm ready to go. I'm fully focused for this fight. I'm not hanging around. I'm not messing around. I'm here for business, and that's it. I'm here to win the fight.
Yeah, and look, not just your coaches, but you have the backing of UFC President Dana White. I imagine it's a big honor. And how much has that meant for your career, Callum?
Oh, it's massive. I wouldn't be standing here right now if it wasn't for the help of Dana White. He's the best promoter in the world to me. And with the help of my team, Tom Loeffler, everyone that's been involved, Freddie Roach, I wouldn't be standing here right now if it wasn't for my hard work from the amateurs and then finding the perfect team, and I'm very honored to be here. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. You know, this is massive for me. The co-main event, you know, on the Canelo Crawford card I would never have imagined it, and now I'm here, and I can't even believe it.
Yeah, it is a great team, and it is a great opportunity. Callum, thank you so much for your time, and good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Now, for the better part of 2 decades, the second weekend of September has been owned by Canelo Alvarez, but for the Mexican people, September 16th means more than just boxing's biggest events.
Mexican independence is everything for us, and it's a day for celebrate. In Vegas, it's big. In Mexico, it's bigger, but in Vegas, it's like we are in Mexico. And me represent Mexico and other country on those days is amazing. And I'm very proud about represent my country.
You march into Mexico and you fight, you better fight your ass off. These people know they're fighting, and Mexicans have boxing gloves running through their veins. This is a boxing country.
Mexico is as proud a fighting nation as there is in the world.
I think she got it! She got it!
Go tapped!
Oh my goodness!
One for Mexico!
¡Viva México, güey! ¡Viva México! ¡Viva México, chingado!
For me, represent Mexico is the best because wherever I go, it's always a flag, green, white, and red.
Mexico! Mexico! Mexico!
No, if you can see every fight, when it is Mexican there, it's very different. No, the way they support you, the way they share, they will do everything with the mariachi, with the banda, with the norteño, everything in the streets. It's a lot of love. We have a lot of good fighters in the history of boxing. We have a lot of talents in Mexico, and I'm very proud about being part of them.
Muchas gracias a toda la gente y hay que disfrutar la independencia de México. ¡Viva México!
Oh, and you're going to hear the Mexicans tomorrow night. They're going to be fired up. Someone who I'm fired up to actually see tomorrow, Mark, Christian Mbili might be the best fighter in the world that a lot of people have not heard about. He's the #1 contender to Canelo's weight class, but he's fighting fellow unbeaten fighter Lester Martinez. Mbili is must-see TV.
Mbili is a theatrical, destructive fighter. He grew up hungry in Cameroon. I remember him telling me about sitting down for meals of potatoes with a little bit of salt. He emigrated to France as a 12-year-old. What really catches my attention, though, in Mbili's history is his relationship with his trainer, Mark Ramsey. Ramsey has an almost foolproof system of his own devising. He looks at the amateurs and he figures out who's going to the Olympics and will be a better pro than an Olympian. So he almost inevitably gets these guys, really high-quality fighters like Mbili, who went there, didn't medal, went to the Olympics, didn't medal, but they're great pros. Among them, Jean Pascal, later Alvarez, Artur Beterbiev was really rather extraordinary. Now it's Mbili's turn. And one of the things that gives me great confidence in Mbili is that Mark Ramsey, a coach in Montreal, I don't know how he talks guys into going to Montreal in the winter, but he's been scouting him since the European Championships in 2014. That's 11 years now, and it's about to pay off.
This fight has a potential to steal the night.
Absolutely. Lester Martinez is all action. He never takes a step backward, trains alongside Terence Crawford. And Christian Mbili, he is on the doorstep of a title shot. He could fight Canelo Alvarez next year. Canelo has 2 more fights on a Riyadh season deal, February or March, and then September, October. And Mark, you mentioned Mark Ramsey. Montreal is a great fight town. Yep. Boxing is about great fight towns. And I think, like Beterbiev, Jean Pascal, and a lot of other fighters, Lucien Brute, Alida Alvarez, that Christian Mbili could become a real attraction in Quebec.
Yeah, I like both of these fighters. Christian Mbili, I believe, has to put some wrinkles in his game. You know, when I see him, he's just going forward. I've never seen him box on his back foot yet. You know what I mean? So he's going to have to get some more wrinkles in his game. And as far as Lester Martinez, we're going to see if being a sparring partner for Terence Crawford, has really developed him as a fighter. But you don't want to go in there with that sparring partner mentality, and so that may make this fight difficult. But we'll see. Can Lester Martinez pull off the upset?
A note on him, Billy, because I watched him fight. I covered his fight with Sergey Derevyanchenko, who was a really resourceful, good, tough guy. And Billy tore a bicep in the fight. And we didn't know it at the time. We were just wondering, why is he not knocking him out? And I think that it really speaks well to his craft, or his emerging sense of craft, his survival instinct. But ultimately, I mean, this is a guy whose next stop desperately wants Canelo and has wanted him for some time. What makes him marketable, what makes him interesting, though, even though we can survive and he's improving, is he's a straight-up knockout puncher.
He really is, and I can relate, unfortunately, to the torn biceps. Tough guy to continue that fight. Very, very tough. Great undercard, but of course, focus is really on the main event with these two legends. Okay, gentlemen, final thoughts. Mark, how big is this main event really tomorrow when you put it into perspective?
It's big enough that the powers that be, the powers around this, are betting this can launch a promotion. It will also change each of their reputations as we go forward. I mean, each guy can be immortal, but I think the way they see it, it's me or you. And what each guy is most concerned with is his reputation. And one's going to come at the expense of the other, and it's going to last forever.
It really is, and I think how both gentlemen perform, win or lose, will have a huge, huge effect on the way the public perceives them.
No question. Again, Canelo said it over and over. For years, he said, I don't want to fight Terence Crawford because if I win, they'll say Crawford was too small, and if I lose, they'll say, how did you lose to the smaller man? So Canelo Alvarez, he's going to have to show that he is the best fighter in Mexican history, and just maybe he's still one of the top 2 or 3 best fighters in all of boxing.
Antonio, what do you want to see early from Crawford? Should he be a little cautious and maybe kind of trying to work on the distance, the timing, or should he try to press him and really take the action to Canelo?
I wouldn't say cautious. I think he's going to have to have his mind made up. You know what I'm saying? He's going to have to be determined, you know, on what he wants to do. I think his best game plan is to really go out there and see, can Canelo handle his speed? It's been a while since Canelo had some guys throwing left hand, right hands at him in this type of volume and rhythm. And like I said, he's a sharp puncher. If we see Crawford get those first couple rounds, it puts Canelo behind the 8 ball, and he's going to have to do something urgently before this fight get away.
And that's the thing, Mark, is that, yes, he is a switch hitter, but he's essentially been fighting southpaw, of course, I mean Crawford. And in the past, Lara, Trout, they've given Canelo some issues.
See, I think that's the most admirable part of Canelo's career, when he went out to fight guys who were guaranteed to make him look bad, and he got through it. I think that's how fighters should approach their apprenticeship. Even though he was already a star by then, I think he learned something extraordinary by that whole stretch with Lara, Austin Trout, even Mayweather. And if you look at, I mean, I don't know why he gets this rap on lefties, because, again, look what he did with Billy Joe Saunders, who was nothing if not crafty. I think that the central strategic component comes down to Crawford, not Canelo. I'm not sure how Crawford wins, and this is his thinking too, if he doesn't start fast, if he doesn't bank rounds. You know, that he's really up against it then. Conversely, if he can do that, then Canelo's got to chase. And Crawford's such a sharpshooter that when someone's coming at him, you know, when he knows you got to make a move, that's when Crawford's really dangerous and he can pick you off. Just because he's been fighting lefty doesn't mean he has to stay there the whole time. He can switch the other way too. You know, I'm sure that Canelo's expecting him to fight most of the fight southpaw. That doesn't mean that Terence Crawford has to, you know, accommodate him.
And Mike, what would you like to see early from Canelo? Does he sort of wait to assimilate to the speed and get the timing and really start to unleash in the middle rounds?
Mario, I want to see Canelo Alvarez make Terence Crawford feel his power and his size early in the fight. I want to see Canelo, we saw against Callum Smith, right? He wasn't just touching Callum Smith to the body and the head. He was going to the shoulders and the biceps, and he actually ruptured Callum Smith's biceps with one of those shots. And I want to see him do that against Terence Crawford as well. If he can do that, Crawford's going to have a hard time keeping him at bay with that jab.
I think it's one fight we kind of missed in all of this, and it happened right before Jermell Charlo fight. It was that fight against John Ryder, who's a southpaw. And if we look back at that fight, they didn't know who was going to win that fight down the championship rounds. That's how they thought. The commentators thought that fight was close, but John Ryder put some hands on Canelo, bro.
He did,
but
Ryder did. He didn't get the memo. He didn't have the memo. He just didn't quite have the game or the ability. I mean, but he went in there with the winner's mentality.
The right mentality.
And I'll tell you what he hit him with, which was interesting, especially if Crawford can get inside like that. Hit him with a lot of uppercuts.
Yes, he did.
But eventually, he got his nose broken, ended up getting hurt, much like Billy Joe Saunders, again, who's got his face broken.
Nino Coppinger makes a great point here about hitting him in the shoulders, wearing him down.
Yes.
You know, if he's going to be big and rehydrated, you know, you don't have to score with every punch. You just have to beat him down and weaken him.
Yes, and that's usually part of his claim. But all right, gentlemen, time now for predictions. I'll go down the line here. Antonio?
Well, I'm going to let you know I'm Bud Crawford, but how he gets it done, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just hoping that he elevates his game, and it's one to remember. I think we can expect the unexpected Saturday night.
Mark?
If Crawford believes in himself this much, then, you know, who am I to doubt the guy? He can do so much from either side. He's longer by a couple of inches at least than Dimitri Bivol. I say Crawford by decision. Possible stoppage late. Very late.
Mike?
Mario, Terence Crawford is a great fighter. That's the reason that this fight is even this big in the first place. He's moving up 2 weight classes, but I think Canelo Alvarez is going to win a decision. And we know it's notoriously difficult to win on the cards against Canelo. I thought Mayweather won maybe 10-2. It was even on one scorecard. So Crawford's going to really have to win the fight going away, and he's going to feel Canelo's power. Could be a decision or could be a late stoppage.
Well, it's even here on the table. I, too, am choosing Canelo, going with the younger guy, the stronger guy, the more powerful guy, the guy with a better resume, and the guy that's used to this moment, and it is Mexican Independence Day weekend, and I think he's going to rise to the occasion. We've been waiting months, if not years, for a super fight like this, and tomorrow it is finally here. Canelo and Crawford have both made the weight. They've had one last face-off, and now we're officially set for the biggest fight in boxing history. So please, join us tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, for the YouTube prelims, and then at 9 p.m. Eastern on Netflix for Canelo versus Crawford. Good night, everyone.